ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुन् श्रीयुतापदकमलम् श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातम् सहगणा ललिता रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् सात्वेदं स्वावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवम् श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगणा ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपीश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Ashwin, for the wonderful Mangalacharan recital. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who has joined and are about to join. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 5, and the text for today is text 34. Prabhuji, shall we continue with the text, translation and purport, and then hand over to you? Okay, Shashwin, is it possible for you to read the text?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Chittama Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna. Evam Rinam Kriya Yoga Sarve Samskriti Hetava Ta Evatma Vinashaya Kalpante Kalpita. Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Kumar Prabhuji, is it possible for you to do word to word and translation, and I will read the purport? Evam Das Hare Ram
of the human being.
of the human being.
All activities.
All activities.
Survey, everything.
Everything.
Samskriti,
Samstri,
material existence.
material existence.
Kitava,
Hetava,
they,
causes.
they,
They,
that,
that.
Eva,
Eva,
certainly.
certainly.
Atma,
Atma,
the tree of what?
tree of work.
No,
Saya,
killing.
killing.
Kalpande,
Kalpante, become competent.
Kalpita,
Kalpita,
dedicated.
dedicated.
Hare,
Pare,
unto the transcendence.
onto the transcendence.
Translation. Thus, then all your activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord. Those very activities which cause his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of God.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kumar Prabhuji and Shashwat. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Fruitative work, which has perpetually engaged the living being, is compared to the banyan tree in the Bhagavad Gita, for it is certainly very deeply rooted. As long as the propensity for enjoying the fruit of work is there, one has to continue the transmigration of the soul from one body to or place to another according to one's nature of work. The propensity for enjoyment may be turned into the desire for serving the mission of the Lord. By doing so, one's activity is changed into karma yoga, or the way by which one can attain spiritual perfection while engaging in the work for which he has natural tendency. Here the word Atma indicates the category of all fruitative work. The conclusion is that when the result of all fruitative and other work is dovetailed with the service of the Lord, it will cease to generate further karma and will gradually develop into transcendental devotional service, which will not only cut off completely the root of the banyan tree of work, but will also carry the performer to the lotus feet of the Lord. The summary is that one has to, first of all, seek the association of pure devotees who not only are learned in the Vedanta, but are self-realized souls and unalloyed devotees of Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. In that association, the neophyte devotees must render loving service physically and mentally without reservation. This service attitude will induce the great souls to be more favorable in bestowing their mercy, which injects the neophyte with all the transcendental qualities of the pure devotees. Gradually, this is developed into a strong attachment to hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which makes him able to catch up the constitutional position of the gross and subtle bodies, and beyond them, the knowledge of pure soul and his eternal relation with the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead. After the relation is ascertained by establishment of the eternal relation, pure devotional service of the Lord begins gradually developing into a perfect knowledge of the personality of Godhead beyond the purview of impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. By such Purushottam Yoga, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one is made perfect even during the present corporal existence, and one exhibits all good qualities of the Lord to the highest percentage. Such is a gradual development by the association of pure devotees. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I hand over to you.
Hare Krishna. I'll read the text again. Thus, when all a man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. So this set of verses, this verse, the one before, and the next 3 or 4 verses, summarize Bhakti Yoga and summarize the path of developing pure devotion and awakening our full Krishna consciousness. It's very step by step outlined in this purport. At first, we seek the association of devotees, not just Pandits or Brahmins, but those who actually have devotion for Lord Krishna. And very important sentence that I discussed in the last class, that the neophyte devotee must render loving service physically and mentally without reservation. This service attitude will induce the great souls to be more favorable in bestowing their mercy, which injects the neophyte with all the transcendental qualities of the pure devotees. And that's how Srila Prabhupada describes it. And as the devotee goes on, stronger and stronger attachment to the process of hearing and chanting. Basically, hearing and speaking Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and the other bhakti literatures, chanting Hare Krishna. And by following this process, gradually, we develop deeper and deeper realization of our identity beyond this body and in connection with Krishna as his devotee. And continuing on, we attain complete revival of our Krishna consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya instructed his devotees that Krishna consciousness is not artificial. It is already there, just as wood has the potency to produce flames and heat. It's already in there. And by a certain process, the wood produces a blaze of fire and also heat. It's a matter of knowing the process. So we eternally are connected to Krishna, and we eternally have the potential for devotion to Krishna. It's just a matter of bringing it out. One example that's given by the pure devotees is just like a young child, a baby, has the ability to walk. It just has to go through the motions. It just has to practice a little bit, and the ability automatically manifests. So the same is there for our devotion to Krishna. It is natural. Sometimes it seems as if it's a struggle to keep our minds attracted to Krishna or to attract our mind to Krishna. But actually, it is our normal thinking pattern. It is our healthy thinking pattern to be very much in love with Krishna and want to do things for Krishna. Right now, we are in a fallen condition, conditioned souls. For a long time, we have not had that attitude. And so therefore, it is hidden within us. So this process of bhakti yoga, it brings it out. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared just 550 years ago as direct incarnation of Lord Krishna, not very long ago in Mayapur, West Bengal, and then later residing in Jagannath Puri, having so many different transcendental pastimes, surrounded by his devotees. And he showed us the example of how to practice bhakti yoga. And the way that our ISKCON founder, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, has given the practices are the same as Lord Chaitanya gave. They are no different. It's very wonderful to have available to us the Leela, the pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Actually, in many temples and long ago, it was a regular practice that one day a week, instead of Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's no harm in reading Chaitanya Charitamrita even now, although we should focus primarily on Srimad Bhagavatam and first Bhagavad Gita. That will help. Just like when we eat, we don't just have rice, we have vegetables and we have breads, not just one thing. And it helps us to have our body to have all the proper nutrition. So there is the different parts of bhakti yoga and hearing, I mean to say. We hear philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, and we have so much pure devotion within Srimad Bhagavatam. And within Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is full, more than any other of our bhakti literatures, with blazing love of God, with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees showing us. It is the biography by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. And there's also another biography, Chaitanya Bhagavat, by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. It is said that simply by hearing Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, one will automatically be blessed with love of God. Such a powerful, transcendental literature. The same is said of Srimad Bhagavatam. But perhaps there is a little bit more mercy for us in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Chaitanya Bhagavat, because it is so much focused upon the worship and meditation upon Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So I encourage the devotees. It is on YouTube. There are narrations of Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat to hear. Very wonderful, the different exchanges between Lord Chaitanya and his many pure associates, pure devotee associates, and their exchanges. They are meant to illustrate for us, they're meant to show the example of serving Krishna and also serving other devotees and serving one's spiritual master. So I mentioned, I pointed out that Srila Prabhupada instructs us how important it is to have a service attitude. And in the last class, I discussed this. And it becomes very real and very practical and something anyone immediately can do. And we can engage anyone instantly in the service of the Parampara, in the service of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, in the service of Lord Krishna, by engaging them in working for this International Society for Krishna Consciousness to work, and we will hear more specifically in the next verse, but it is spoken about here, that to serve the pure devotees, to serve one's spiritual master, brings special mercy. So how do we serve our spiritual master? How do we serve everyone's Shiksha Guru, his ISKCON founder, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada? By doing whatever we can and using whatever we have and whatever we get to serve the mission of this Hare Krishna movement. That makes it very simple, very, very simple. We don't have to figure out how to serve Krishna. How can I support the temple? How can I help the temple? How can I help other devotees to support the Hare Krishna movement and participate in the International Society? That's all we have to do to serve Krishna. We have our personal sadhana, our chanting our round, perhaps having deities in our house, cooking for Krishna, dressing Krishna, the worship of Tulsi. And then we have our work, which is what is described here. The previous verse instructed us that the same thing that can cause trouble can also provide great fortune. If we work selfishly, we're going to go back to the beginning of the purport, when we work only focused upon our own selfish pleasure, that's what keeps us in the cycle of birth and death. This selfish focus. And it becomes expanded, that only working for my family, only working for my town, only working for my country. So ordinarily, these are very good things, and they are good. Working to support one's family and village or town or country. Of course, it's good in a relative sense. But all of that is focused upon this temporary body and this temporary life and this temporary material world without awareness, without consciousness of our eternal identity and the eternal spiritual world. So we will come back and get another material body and get good results because of being a good person. It is necessary for going back to Godhead, for breaking free from the cycle of birth and death, to develop akama, to develop selfless service to Krishna. And actually, we find in the Bhagavad Gita that whatever progress someone can make in becoming less selfish is a step forward. In the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes 5 or 6 different levels of devotion. The fully awakened devotee of Krishna has spontaneous devotion and serves Krishna automatically with love. And then Lord Krishna describes that if one is not on that level, really, then one should practice the principles of bhakti yoga, do sadhana. And if for some reason one is not able to do sadhana, someone is in school, someone's family will object too much, there's some serious obstacle, then one can, knowing that it will help one advance in Krishna consciousness, then one should be dedicated to welfare work and humanitarian work. It is a step forward for most of us to be, however we can care for others and not be so focused on ourselves. Therefore, marriage and household life is meant to be and can be so uplifting in the sense that we are put in a position where we're thinking about others, supporting and maintaining the family and taking care of them and taking care of relatives. So that is whatever helps sattva guna, whatever helps religious activity, good activity, it's wanted. But as devotees of Krishna, we understand that that's not the end of it. Just to take care of my parents and to be very devoted to my parents, we'll come back and be taken care of by our children, the same way we took care of our parents. Another birth, another death, and another birth, and another death, being a good person. Nevertheless, as devotees of Krishna, understanding that it will help us in our pure devotion, it is good to practice however we can being selfless. And the fact of the matter is, for most of us, depending where we are, we may go up and down those different levels. It may be that for some time we don't feel so enthused to follow sadhana, so we may fall back. We may take a step back temporarily and focus I understand that if I can't always be chanting my rounds and worshiping Krishna, at least I should be a good person and take care of my family and look after others and be nonviolent. And that will help me at least not to slip down further. It is said, and it's very important to understand, that one person's sin is another person's pious activity. What might be sinful or not so good activity for one person may be a very good activity for another. And this is broad-minded. It's not that to live in the temple and serve Krishna 24/7 is good for everyone. At the moment, it is absolutely good, but it might not be the right place for someone to be right now. Or maybe it is. And just because we become initiated, we get our spiritual name, it doesn't mean automatically that we're on some particular, well, it does, because we're following the regulative principles and we're chanting 16 rounds, but it doesn't mean necessarily we're on the platform of pure devotion. But we are practicing. We are on the path. So broad-minded means, especially as we, for managers and leaders who are taking up positions of responsibility and looking after devotees, it is obviously crucial to have this broad vision that I might advise one devotee to act in a certain way, but I would not advise another devotee to act that way because they're on a different platform. For example, someone may be very addicted to watching television. So they may say, I don't know what to do about that. So we may advise them, well, convert yourself to watching Krishna conscious videos and television programs. And at least watch, if you're watching television, let it be something in the mode of goodness, something you're learning, rather than breaking the regulative principles sort of television. Now, we would never instruct a brahmachari or a brahmacharini living in a temple. They don't need to hear that. They shouldn't need to hear that. But other people do need to hear that. There are so many specific guidances that may be given to married couples, which is good for them at a particular time, but it might not be good for someone else. So this is broad. It's not that one shoe fits everyone. And for us, if we have some question that especially when we begin in Krishna consciousness. Now I'm chanting 2 rounds a day, 4 rounds a day. Now I'm doing this. Should I increase? Or now I'm in a situation, I'm living with someone and they're very antagonistic. What should I do? So when we have questions, we go to our mentor, we go to an advanced devotee, we go to our spiritual master, and we ask, how do I live my life in bhakti yoga in this particular situation? Srila Prabhupada speaks about this in the Bhagavad Gita. He mentions in the 18th chapter that although I'm a sannyasi in a renounced order, I'm still performing marriage ceremonies, because for some people, that's the best place for them to practice Krishna consciousness. So this requires maturity, that the devotee is at peace with their own situation of Krishna consciousness, so they're not, number one, envious or jealous. It can happen. There can be devotees who are trying to live in a very renounced way, and the fact of the matter is, there may be some feelings of resentment or jealousy even at times, seeing other devotees who are having more material enjoyments or comforts. It can happen. Or being narrow-minded, that this is the only way to be Krishna. You have to chant 16 rounds, you have to live in the temple, or you're doomed. Or you have to be doing this. Yes, from one perspective, we do want to rise higher and higher. But again, what is a proper standard for one devotee may not be for another. So when we are at peace with our own Krishna consciousness, when we are at peace with our own values in life, sometimes people who preach, not necessarily in the Hare Krishna movement, but there are some for sure, and other religions who proselytize, it is not uncommon for people to proselytize because they're insecure about their own religious values, and they don't feel comfortable being in the company of people who aren't doing exactly what they're doing. Even in ordinary material life, we relatives and friends, no, you have to do it this way. This is the way you do it. They don't feel comfortable. I mean, sometimes they may be right, but other times it's because they're not comfortable with people being individuals and doing things in a different way, because they're not secure about, because then they think, well, if this other person is doing that, maybe I should be doing that. Maybe I should not be doing what I'm doing, and they become insecure. And so therefore, to get rid of the insecurity, they become sometimes fanatical. And we meet people, we know people who are fanatical and dogmatic. And sometimes that can be the result of some inner insecurity. If we are, to the extent that we are real, wherever we're at, if we are sincerely chanting our 4 rounds or 6 rounds or 12 rounds, following the 3 regulative principles or whatever it may be, if we're doing our best and we're sincerely following it, we will feel at peace, and we will be able to communicate with other people about Krishna consciousness in a way which is effective. That I'm on this path of Krishna consciousness, and I'm getting these benefits from it. I'm not following it completely. I can't say that, but it's very good. And I encourage you to learn more. If we are living in the temple and we're living as a brahmachari or brahmacharini, if we are truly at peace with what we're doing and we are satisfied, and then we can mix with married couples and grihastas and anyone. and be at peace and be happy and encourage everyone. So this is a result of maturity that develops over time, and always striving to not be false, that I'm presenting myself in one way, but actually I'm living in a different way, or, what do they call pretending or bluffing? That will put us in a weak position, actually. That was described in the narrative of Gajendra. You can read that in the 8th canto. The elephant his leg was caught by a crocodile. So because the crocodile was in the water, which is natural for a crocodile, it had more strength than the elephant, because being in the water is not the natural place for an elephant, and the elephant was becoming weak. So it is described in that narrative that it's very important for devotees to be situated in a situation which gives them strength. If we're thinking, let me be like a renounced sannyasi, and I'm not going to eat opulent foods, and I'm only going to eat fruits, that's nice. But if we become weak-minded, and actually we become very lusty because we want some kind of material gratification, we could end up in big trouble. We can end up in big trouble imitating advanced devotees when we're too much. And we should always try to do more. But at a certain point, it becomes counter-effective. Just like I gave the example before, that if you pull a rubber band back and then you let go up front, it doesn't stop here. It keeps going the other way. So if we are falsely denying ourselves, that I shouldn't do that, it's possible that we may overindulge in what we're trying to avoid doing. Therefore, balance. Spiritual life is about balance. Not too much, not too little. What's someone may need, someone loses their mind unless they can have cake twice a week. Someone else, it doesn't bother them, they don't have cake for 2 months. So what's good for one devotee may not be so good for another devotee. Whatever helps our Krishna consciousness, whatever within the regulative principle. We can't, it would be a most neophyte, hardly a devotee, that, unless I drink some beer, I can't chant Hare Krishna. But we should not go outside of the regulative principle. So I'll stop here and we can have discussion and comments.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for all that you have said today, and the importance of reading the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, and how we should become less selfish to start off with in our Krishna consciousness. And whatever applies to one person doesn't apply to another person. Everybody is at different stages, but we can pray and we can ask Krishna probably that I'm doing this, I don't want to do it, so please help me. So, and that would be a place where we all are, probably, at least I am, and we could start from there. Prabhuji,
Yeah.
I have a question about hatred. I mean, somebody has wronged you and you are bearing the grudge, and the hatred keeps on solidifying. So how can we deal with that, or how can we be compassionate towards that person?
Srila Prabhupada was asked that question. A devotee said that when I feel very disturbed by some devotee, what should I do? He said, you should go and pay obeisances. So that's his instruction, that you pay respects to the devotee first and apologize for feeling strong anger or resentment. And as in any human exchange, as possible, we communicate our feelings, if that's possible. That I don't know if you know, but you did this, and I'm feeling, I'm feeling like this. I'm feeling very upset, and I think it may not be completely justified, but I want to clear my mind. So we should communicate our feelings, even in ordinary counseling. Let processing our feelings. We should not keep feelings within, on and on and on and on. Sometimes, of course, we must. Sometimes we have a flash of anger or envy or whatever the feeling may be, and it comes and it goes. But if it eats at us, it keeps coming back, and we wake up in the morning and we go to sleep at night for days and weeks with whatever it may be, then we need to process those feelings, find out why we're having those feelings, and release them. There are many ordinary, standard ways of releasing feelings, which are useful for us now. It's not as sometimes devotees say, well, I'm a Vaishnava, I'm transcendental. Yeah, to a certain degree, but not entirely. For each of us, we are transcendental to different degrees. If we try to deal with an illness only by chanting Hare Krishna, because that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what pure devotees do, it might work. But then again, it may not be the right course of action for us. Frankly, we are somewhere between the material and the spiritual platform. And we need to take advantage of whatever we need to take advantage to help us. If we break our toe, we go to a doctor. If we need some medicine, we take some medicine if that will help our Krishna consciousness and our peace of mind. If we're having emotional, something going on, very strong feelings, then we should consult with someone. Talk to a friend, talk to a senior devotee, talk to a counselor of some kind. That I'm having these strong feelings that keep coming back. What do you suggest I do? I can share one thing, which is a standard counseling technique, and it relates to the directly on the spiritual platform, which is how we feel about ourselves, how we as humans relate with ourselves. That's how we relate with others. That very strong tendency. If we are very critical with ourselves, it is almost guaranteed we will tend to be very critical with others. Oh, you did this, you did that, you did this. And we very easily get upset with others because we hold ourselves to some, or we don't deal with our own self in a compassionate way. We are unforgiving. It comes back to forgiveness. That we are able to forgive ourselves. If we are not able to forgive ourselves for our imperfections, it will be almost impossible to forgive others for their imperfections, and we will want to retaliate, or we will be overly critical, or we will be impatient. Without asking, am I perfect? Can I say that I can go 2 weeks without making any mistake? Then why am I demanding it of someone else? Why am I criticizing? There are a tremendous amount of human emotional dysfunction rests upon self-esteem, which is something that Srila Prabhupada speaks about in Nectar Devotion. It all comes back to love. If people who do not have very good feelings about themselves, who are insecure about themselves, or may even hate themselves. I don't like my nose. I hate myself because the way I failed this course. I hate myself for this. I hate myself for that. it will come out towards others. It will come out towards Krishna. So I'm just speaking about how important it is to clean our own heart, to become as healthy as possible inside. Then we won't become as upset with others nearly as much. We won't hang on to people more than we need to. We will be able to have emotionally healthy relationships with other human beings by strengthening our self-esteem and our self-love. Srila Prabhupada writes in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the first sentence of one purport, I forget the verse, but he says that for those who have led sinful lives or are coming from sinful backgrounds or coming from disturbed backgrounds, devotional service can be very difficult. And very often when we're having some difficulty in life or someone else is having difficulty, this can be very much part of it. That I don't love myself. I don't accept myself materially, and even more important, spiritually. So there's an exercise which is recommended, which I have practiced, which seems to work, that if we are in some social situation, whatever it may be, we're on a bus, we're in a room, we're on a plane, wherever we may be, if we feel some kind of anger towards others or dislike of others, or we're finding fault with others, we just repeat to ourselves for 30 seconds, I love and forgive myself completely. I love and forgive myself completely. How do you like this one? I love and forgive Krishna completely. Yes, I'll speak about that. If we are loving ourselves, how can we hate others? If we are loving Krishna, how can we be too disturbed with that? We may correct them. We may discuss things with someone, but we won't nearly be as disturbed, and we won't be hateful towards others. I love and accept myself as I am right now. That doesn't mean I am lackadaisical or irresponsible about improving myself, but I don't hate myself for being imperfect, and then I won't hate others. A very, very powerful and simple exercise, especially in the early morning or in the evening when things are quiet before we sleep or before we get out of bed. These are called affirmations. Every day I love Krishna more and more. Every day I accept myself more and more. These are positive affirmations, and they can be extremely useful in our Krishna consciousness. Now, so I just described, and I'll go back to what I started to say, that we as eternal parts of Krishna have anger towards Krishna. We may not be aware of it. If we were aware of all the kinds of feelings we have deep in our heart, it might scare us. But actually there is material contamination. There is anger towards Krishna, whether we're aware of it or not. So therefore, by addressing that root thing which is there, I love and forgive Krishna completely. We don't even have to believe it. We don't even have to really know how it's working, but it will, because deep in our subconscious, there is some negativity towards Krishna or anyone else. I love and forgive this person completely. Now, so I just described some ordinary, useful, standard techniques for helping our emotional health. In the Bhagavad Gita, we find direct spiritual advice for preventing these feelings from arising, or if they do arise. So here's the direct spiritual understanding. It's in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I think verses 6 to 8. I'm not sure. So Srila Prabhupada, so there, Lord Krishna's describing the personality of advanced devotees. And he's describing the kind of personality that he finds very pleasing. So one of the qualities is, I don't become the enemy of my enemy. So how is that possible? That was your question. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada reminds us that whatever's happening, it's happening because of me. There is no one responsible for what happens except the person I look at in the mirror in the morning. And that's hard to fully accept sometimes. It's something that usually we have to hear about and think about and practice. That the way this person spoke to me rudely, the way this person did this and did that, the way I lost my job, the way my car died, it's me, no one else. If there's anyone to be chastised, it's me. If there's anyone to be upset with, it's me, not the other person. Just like the example of Lord Jesus. Father, forgive them because they know not what they do. He was being crucified, having nails driven through his palms and through his ankles. And think about how upset we get sometimes when someone does something. Father, forgive them because they know not what. So he was able to have that peace of mind because of accepting responsibility. So that's another affirmation. I accept full responsibility for my life. There is no one ultimately responsible but me. Not my mother, not my father, not my husband or wife or my friends, not the prime minister, not God. Krishna's not responsible. And this is very, very deep stuff. This is very core, transformative understanding. Think about that for a moment. As we develop this more and more, then we're able to be like Jesus. Someone is an instrument of suffering, but we can be peaceful and calm. Just like Lord Nityananda. There's another wonderful example. He had the earthen pot, the clay pot, thrown at his forehead, and it cut his forehead. And then the one of the brothers said, I'm going to cut your body into pieces and feed you to the crocodiles. And he said, that's great, no problem, but please chant Hare Krishna. So this is transcendental. This is what it means, transcendental to ordinary earthly behavior. So how is it? So it's possible if we deeply are humble by understanding that because of my past actions and ultimately because of my rejecting Krishna, I am responsible for all this trouble I bump into, no one else. So then Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that when the devotee is in reverses or in difficulties, this is the kind of thinking the devotee should think. That I deserve a lot worse, but Krishna is making it less. And when the devotee gets something, a nice situation, he thinks, I don't deserve such a good thing. Very humble. I may be a good person in this life, but what about my past life? It's not possible to be really deeply humble without this transcendental remembrance that I have had other lives. Yes, I'm a nice person. Why the child should be hurt? But maybe that child was a soldier who killed a child. Now the soldier is born again and getting killed at the age of 8. There's no innocent victims, which is sometimes hard for us to immediately accept. There are no victims. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that someone can say to us, well, just be humble while I slap your face. It's your karma. Take this abuse from me. You know, you must deserve it, otherwise it wouldn't be happening. sometimes thieves, con men. I heard there was someone who was interviewed in jail, and he said, "What did you think when you cheated people out of money?" He would tell big lies. And he said, "Well, if they're so stupid to let themselves be cheated, then I guess it's meant to be." And that's how he found peace of mind. So no, it doesn't work like that. And just because, and that's why devotees, according to our advancement, can be very tolerant. Very tolerant. And therefore, sometimes Krishna has to do dramatic things to shift the devotee. It's true. I have seen it many times. Devotees in a particular temple or in a particular relationship, and Krishna has to do something dramatic because the devotees are tolerant. Well, it's, it's purifying. It's my own past actions. Let me not protest. Actually, that's what Srila Prabhupada writes in that purport. He said the devotee does not protest. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Because I must have done it to someone else. Now that does, again, but that doesn't mean that we should put up with it. We have every right to self-defense, to let someone know that the way you acted, I felt really hurt. I'm not sure you know that, but I'm just sharing my feelings so you're aware. And if the situation demands it, we call the police. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what clothes they're wearing. It doesn't matter whether it's a wife, a husband, a father, anyone. If they're doing something criminal and physically harming, then we must take steps. That's their karma. Everyone has a responsibility to act properly. Now we, because we understand how things work, we practice not hating someone or becoming too disturbed by it, but that doesn't mean that we should not take action because that's for their benefit. So there's these two things that are happening at the same time. There's, children need to be disciplined, and sometimes we wish we didn't have to, but they must. And sometimes a wife has to do something to wake her husband up, to stop him from doing something, or the other way around. It's not pleasant, but it's necessary. That's another part of being tolerant, that I must speak my mind, I must say the truth, and probably this person's not going to like hearing it, but I have to be tolerant. This is the basic Bhagavad Gita, developing tolerance. So there's some wonderful instructions in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and examples of pure devotees. And then also, if there may be a need for a particular devotee to take advantage of usual and ordinary ways of becoming more healthy emotionally, having better self-esteem and better sense of self. So I'll stop here. That's a long answer, but it's a very good question.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes. So becoming tolerant, but not bearing grudges. If we now know why such a thing is happening, then we will become tolerant without bearing grudges or hatred. So thank you very much. And that cuts the root cause of everything.
That cuts it right there.
Yeah.
Or at least turns down the volume tremendously.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments? There are no more questions.
It is pride. If we're thinking somewhere deep in our heart, I don't deserve to suffer, of course we're going to get upset. We won't even be able to take a cold shower because we're thinking, I don't deserve to experience some discomfort. That is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that pride destroys the ability to be austere or to suffer. If we're humble, then we can suffer or accept some discomfort more peacefully. All right, I deserve it. Or it's temporary. Instead of protesting, oh, who is this to do this? Who are you? Who do you really think you are? Sometimes we have to grab ourselves by the shirt. Who do you think you are? You're forgetting. Yes, you're a devotee for the past 10 years, but where were you 10 lifetimes ago? What were you doing? Any other questions or discussion? Thank you for the question, because I'm no different than anyone else. So many difficult, I have a material body. So these are good things to remind each other.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the answer. It was really good. There is one question from Sandhya Mataji. I know we are almost to the end of our time, but I'll let Mataji ask that question. Mataji, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Kirtika Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, your answer to Kirtika Mataji's question was so good. I don't know what to say. I want to cry. It's so good answer.
Well,
I don't know what to say. Prabhuji, so sweet
Well,
of you. Thank you for that answer, Prabhuji.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But of course, I must give credit to Lord Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. And I have been fortunate to hear it and practice it a little bit.
It's really, you've really touched my heart, Prabhuji. It's such a sweet answer what you've given. And I mean, recently you were right that we hold a grudge against Krishna. And I think I've been feeling like this. And I think I had kind of felt that all these 2 years when I was listening to Gita and I was doing everything like this, I had done a U-turn and gone back. But today your answer has been so sweet. And when you speak, Prabhuji, you speak with so much emotion. And I'm sure even Kirtika Mataji and all other devotees, I'm sure their heart must have shaken as much as mine.
Yeah.
You're magical, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I have, I'm no different than anyone else. I have been in situations of probably more than average. And I've had to practice to some extent, and I've had to heal. That's the word. I had to heal my inner being, and Lord Krishna guided me to the different resources that he has made available. There's so many resources. And that point about being angry at Krishna or angry at ourselves, not enough can be said about that. We may think, I know, but actually, if you practice it a little bit, you'll find amazing changes in your life very quickly. 10 times in the morning, 10 times at night. Love and forgive myself completely. I love and forgive everyone completely. You'll feel it.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are there any other comments? If there are no more comments, Prabhuji, I can end the session. Thank you very much for this wonderful class and your time, Prabhuji. We really look forward to Sunday classes. These are the core devotees who wait for you, and there are many more who will listen to it on the YouTube. Prabhuji, around 300 devotees listen to your lectures after we put them on. So you might feel this is a small group, but then it multiplies later on.
Yes.
So
You're welcome. We have such divine wisdom. As I shared in one class, as Srila Prabhupada said once, that if you think that I have given you something a little bit valuable, then please take advantage of it and work together to spread Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Prabhuji, that's the aim. Thank you, and thank you for reminding this mission every class. So let us all unmute and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to glorify Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchikalpatarubhyascha
Kripasindhuvaya
patitanam
pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Jai.
I invite the devotees, as you might like, feel free to help some other questions, or I can be.
Shri Dina Sharana Das Prabhuji ki.
Jai.
Jai.
Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Be
Thank you
well.
very much.